Yes, Senator.
All right, does the patient's family have a cause of action against the protesters or the leader of the protest?
In any hypothetical, I would hesitate to completely prejudge the situation without knowing all of the facts.
Come on, counselor. Give me your legal opinion. This is a first year law student question.
I believe.
Welcome back to Freedom Forge. If you believe in truth, accountability, and cutting through the noise, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because today we're breaking down a Senate hearing that exposes just how fragile our legal system becomes when common sense is pushed aside. Now, before we dive in, let me quickly explain what this hearing is about. This Senate exchange centers on legal reasoning, accountability, and how judges and legal professionals interpret the law. It touches on real-world consequences of protest actions, questions about legal responsibility, and deeper debates about how laws should actually be applied in America. Whether we follow the plain meaning of the law or twist it based on interpretation and political convenience.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Coleman, have you ever been to Manhattan?
Manhattan, Kansas?
No, sir, Manhattan, New York.
I have not.
Okay. Are you familiar with, maybe you've seen it in the movie, 3rd Avenue, Midtown?
Only by reputation.
Okay. Well, it's a major east or north-south traffic corridor. Very busy, a lot of traffic. I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but about 200 protesters in New York sat down in the middle of 3rd Avenue. Completely blocked traffic. They were wearing T-shirts that said, "No war, no ice, free Palestine." Completely shut everything down for about an hour. Police had to come in. They arrested some of them. This is New York. Nothing will probably happen to them. But the point is it blocked traffic severely. Let's suppose a medical transportation service was trying to get a heart to a transplant patient at a hospital nearby. And obviously the traffic jam delayed him and the patient died. You with me?
Yes, Senator.
All right, does the patient's family have a cause of action against the protesters or the leader of the protest?
In any hypothetical, I would hesitate to completely prejudge the situation without knowing all of the facts.
Come on, counselor. Give me your legal opinion. This is a first year law student question.
I believe they would, more than likely. I think that would be a matter.
What would be the issues that would arise? I just want to understand how you think.
Sure. I think that would be.
If you're defending the leader of the protest, what's the first thing you're going to say?
If I'm defending the leader of the protest?
Yeah.
I would probably argue about causation and foreseeability. I mean, that would be really a state law negligence.
What do you mean causation?
Well, for any negligence claim, one of the elements is you have a duty to somebody. Did you breach that duty? Did you cause them an injury? And part of the duty causation calculus is how foreseeable that injury was.
Okay. What's the difference between legal causation and proximate cause?
So
cause in fact and proximate cause.
Yeah. So cause in fact is the specific cause of death or injury, rather. And in this case, it would probably be whatever heart ailment this poor person that you've described had would probably be the cause in fact of his death. But proximate cause does not always have to be the cause in fact, and there can be multiple causes. So a proximate cause is, but for this thing happening, this injury may not have occurred.
Okay.
And
got it. Good. Judge Powell, you said you're a textualist.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean?
It means you follow the words of the text of the statute.
Okay. What if the text of the statute's not clear? What do you do?
Well, one of the approaches that I do use is I want to look at the language in context of the statute as a whole and try to harmonize the language I may go to dictionaries to help me find definitions of words.
Well, how ambiguous does the statute have to be before you're going to look to secondary sources?
Well, ambiguity means the language is subject to two or more interpretations. And so if there's language.
Reasonable interpretations.
Correct.
Well, I mean, does it have to be 50% ambiguous or 52% or 51%?
Well, I'm not sure how to apply the 51. To me, ambiguity
That's what
is
I'm asking you, is how you apply it.
Well, ambiguity means that the words that are used are susceptible to two or more different definitions. That's, so I don't know whether that's 50%.
Why do you
50.
go, I'm not suggesting you're wrong, but why do you go through that exercise? Why do you want to spend hours agonizing and debating how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin to try to decide whether it's ambiguous? Why don't you just go look at the statute and also go to the secondary sources?
Well, that's what I do, Senator.
But you only go if it's ambiguous.
Well, because the plain words of the words, the plain meaning of the words in front of you are what guide you. And you apply the common
I
understanding of
guess
the
what I'm
words.
asking you is, Your Honor, why? Don't you want to look to the problem that the legislature was trying to solve? Why do you want to be a slave to the plain words that reasonable people can disagree over? Why don't you just start with, I've got a statute, let me see what problem the legislature was trying to solve in interpreting the statute.
I have done that, Senator, and I don't disagree with that approach,
But you said you were a textualist. You don't even get to that approach unless the words are ambiguous.
correct. I agree with that. And
I know. So which is it?
well, you look at,
Are you always a slave to the words and the debate about plain meaning, or do you step back and go, plain meaning or not, I want to look at the problem the legislature was trying to solve? Which is it?
well, Senator, the best way to understand what the legislature
Yeah, but
intended.
first, our chairman's a great guy. He's like awesome. He's going to cut me off anyway. Tell me which one you use.
Senator, as I'm trying to say, when you're trying to discern the legislative intent, you first look at the words the legislature itself used, and
Yeah,
you apply
okay.
the
And let's
common,
suppose
ordinary
they're
meaning.
plain. They're plain to you.
I'm sorry, what?
Let's suppose the words are clear.
Okay, then
Why you would stop there, right?
you apply the words, yes.
Okay. Why? Why don't you go, well, I want to get this right. So let me adopt a belt and suspenders approach, even though the words are plain. Let me delve into the legislative history and try to understand what problem the legislature is trying to solve. Why not do that?
Because the language tells you what it is they're trying to
Where's it
do and what
written?
it is they
You
want to
can't
solve.
go further than the language of the statute.
Well, again, Senator, if there's some doubt, when you look at the
Even if
words in
there's no doubt.
context,
Not a doubt in your mind.
that's why because you're carrying out the will of the people. It's the will of the people that's
So
expressed in the pages.
you're trying to apply a statute passed by the legislature.
Correct.
Okay. Can I ask one more? Tell me how to say your name. Your last name, sir?
It's Mativi, Senator.
Mr. Mativi. I'm 17 and I go to work for McDonald's. I go to apply for a job and I'm wearing a burqa. And the McDonald's manager says, I really want to hire you, but we don't allow religious symbols at my restaurant or at our restaurants. What does the law say about that?
The law prohibits the application of a religious test applied by the government, right, not by private employers. So I would say that's the basis of.
You sure about that?
Well, it depends on whether, I mean, there's other factors, right?
Let me just ask you, can McDonald's say, we have a policy against religious symbols and you can't wear a burqa? Who's going to win, McDonald's or the the person wearing the burqa?
Honestly, Senator, I'm not sure who would win in that situation. I'd need to know more
I
facts.
appreciate your honesty. Thank you. Thanks for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Anything for you,
I
Senator.
I especially appreciated your commentary and listened carefully, Eric. And you're right about courage. It's easy to play to the crowds, but when the going gets tough and you got to follow the law, and it's not going to be popular, that's what the rule of law is all about.
That's right. That's right. Thank you.
And let me tell you, what we saw here should concern every American who still believes in law, order, and responsibility. Right out of the gate, a senator brings up a scenario that frankly should not even be controversial. Protesters block a major road in New York, 3rd Avenue, one of the busiest arteries in the country. Traffic is completely shut down. And during that chaos, a medical transport carrying an organ for a transplant gets delayed and the patient dies. Let that sink in. A human life lost. Not because of natural causes alone, but because activists decided their cause was more important than everyone else's rights, including someone literally fighting for their life. Now here's where it gets revealing. The question is simple. Should the protesters or their leaders be held responsible? And instead of a clear answer, what do we get? Hesitation, legal hedging. We need more facts. We need to consider causation. This is exactly the problem. This is what happens when the system becomes so obsessed with legal technicalities that it forgets basic moral clarity. You don't need a law degree to understand that if you block emergency access and someone dies as a result, there should be consequences. Period. But instead, the discussion drifts into proximate cause and fact, and whether the heart condition itself is technically what caused the death. This is the kind of thinking that drives everyday Americans crazy, because it feels like accountability is always just one legal loophole away from disappearing. And let's be honest, this isn't just about one case. This is about a pattern we're seeing across the country. Protesters shutting down highways, blocking ambulances, disrupting entire cities, and too often, nothing happens to them. Why? Because the system bends over backwards to protect disruption instead of protecting innocent people. Now the hearing doesn't stop there. It shifts into something even more important, the philosophy of how judges interpret the law. One nominee calls themselves a textualist, meaning they follow the exact words written in the law. Sound good, right? Straightforward. No funny business. But then the senator starts pressing, and this is where it gets interesting. What happens when the law isn't perfectly clear? Do you stick to the words? Or do you look at what the lawmakers were trying to accomplish? And suddenly, you see the confusion, the back and forth, the uncertainty. This is a big deal because this is how laws get twisted. This is how judges can take something simple and turn it into something completely different based on interpretation. And here's my take. If the law says something clearly, you follow it. That's it. You don't reinvent it. You don't reinterpret it based on feelings, trends, or political pressure. Because the moment judges start acting like lawmakers, democracy itself starts to break down. The people elect lawmakers to write laws. Judges are supposed to apply them, not rewrite them from the bench. And yet, what we're seeing here is hesitation to commit to that principle. Then comes another example, this time about religious freedom. A young person applies for a job wearing religious clothing, and the question is whether a company like McDonald's can deny them based on a policy against religious symbols. Again, instead of a confident answer, we get uncertainty. And this matters because these are the kinds of cases that shape everyday life in America. This is where rights, freedoms, and private business authority all collide. But here's the bigger picture. What this entire hearing reveals is a system that is struggling to draw clear lines. A system where even basic questions about responsibility, law, and rights are met with hesitation instead of clarity. And that should concern you, because when the law becomes unclear, uneven, or selectively applied, it stops being a shield for the people and starts becoming a tool for whoever knows how to manipulate it best. At the end of the day, The rule of law isn't supposed to be complicated for the sake of being complicated. It's supposed to be fair, predictable, and grounded in reality. If blocking a road leads to someone's death, there should be accountability. If laws are written clearly, they should be followed as written. And if we start losing those principles, we're not just debating legal theory anymore. We're watching the foundation of justice slowly erode. That's why conversations like this matter. That's why hearings like this matter. And that's why you need to stay informed. If you made it this far, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Freedom Forge, and stay tuned, because we're going to keep exposing what others won't.